Hello and welcome to this episode of Hoopatheticals. Welcome back, it's season 2 and that is deliberate and planned, not just because I was lazy. In this episode we cover why LeBron is not the GOAT, we discuss the most overrated and underrated players, we pick our best players in the bubble, and we also talk a lot about the Bucks. Enjoy. Thom Nixon, welcome back to Hoopatheticals, mate.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor and a privilege.
Tell me just a little bit, Thom. Obviously, the NBA season's over. NBA bubble was at least a majority a success. How did you enjoy the end of the NBA season?
I really did enjoy it. I thought it was really entertaining. I actually thought that the NBA did a phenomenal job of putting it together. You know, not just like the execs, but even all the cooks, you know, the workers who were facilitating those games behind the scenes. I thought they did a fantastic job. As far as the actual basketball is concerned, I like taking out my own biases of who I wanted to win. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really entertaining. I thought the quality was pretty great, especially the playoffs. I guess my only thing is that I wish it went like the finals went to 7 games, but you know the fact that it went to 6 was good enough for me, shall we say? But yeah, I thought it was awesome.
I like that the second people you shouted out were the chefs.
Yeah, I was just no. The reason I shouted them out is because there was this video on YouTube the other day which Amy was watching, which I saw a little bit of, which was like you know like the chefs in the NBA bubble like preparing like thousands of meals every day, and it was just like I don't know. I got a sense of just the massive behind the scenes operation that was at play during the bubble, because I didn't think about it at all. So just like all the trainers, all of the like the coaches, just everyone, all the cleaners, you know, I was just like, this is a huge operation. I really got like an appreciation for the people who weren't just the players, because like everyone's like, oh, the players, it's so hard on them, and like it is, but I'm sure it was, anyway, they're not the only people who were involved. So that's why
think about the guy chopping carrots.
Yeah. Thank you for making me justify putting you know big ups on the people who don't get shout outs. So
we've got some good segments today. We've basically want to look back at the bubble and also obviously get into the Milwaukee Bucks, our team. But we're going to be looking at some other stuff. We're going to do a bit of an overrated, underrated section. We're going to do which bandwagon team would you like to jump on board for next season. And then we'll be doing a bubble draft of players, how they performed in the bubble, who would you draft? And I think that might be actually a good place to start. You and I both watched a lot of the playoffs. We actually got a league pass for this particular playoffs that we shared.
Well worth it.
To mixed success. Yeah. And so what we're going to be doing for this segment, for the first segment to kick it off, is we will be looking at how players played during the bubble and be selecting from there. Now, you did send me a message before saying that we might not pick people like LeBron and Jimmy Butler. Tell me why you thought that, Tommy.
I just feel like if I only select the 5, you know, highest performing players, I just think it doesn't lend to that much of an interesting conversation, because anyone can select AD, LeBron, Jimmy Butler, you know, Jamal Murray and Giannis, something like that. You know, I mean, but I felt like there were quite a few players who performed really well and even improved in the bubble that deserve a shout out and deserve honorable mentions. So mine's going to be more like a kind of a bubble draft of honorable mentions.
Right. And so my question is, should we rename the segment bubble overachieving draft? So people that just overachieved in their role, or overachieved with the expectations we might have had going into the bubble.
Yeah, and I'll go into this by saying that just by virtue of the fact that we're not talking about objectively the best players, I think that there will be some controversial picks, and this will kind of flow into the third question about over and underrated players. But just by virtue of the fact that we are talking about like opinions, you know, this is who I thought actually played really well. There could be some left of field selections for my draft.
Perfect. Now, one quick question. Did you pick only playoff players?
Yeah.
Like, do we have yeah? Okay.
Yes.
All right, well, so did I. So we'll just say it's a playoffs thing. And Thom, because you're the guest, I'm going to let you go first. Who in our bubble playoff overachievement draft have you selected with your number 1 pick?
My number one pick was the Dragon, Goran Dragic. Um, I thought he, I thought he was so good. He was. I think everyone was just. I don't know. People have been sleeping on him. He's kind of like the quintessential Heat player for me, and he kind of
Okay.
symbolizes the Heat as a team in the sense that everyone was like, yeah, they're okay, but they're not going to do much. And I felt like he was averaging like 22, 23 points in every matchup, like up until obviously the series with the Lakers, and I just think he was outstanding. He took maybe a few too many 3-pointers for my liking, but his playmaking, he was calm and collected. He's like 1-2 games with Adebayo, like that 2-man game vibe that he went, the pick and rolls, incredible. I honestly, I was so bummed when he got injured. I really thought that like that was really a blow for the Heat. But I thought he, in so many ways, exceeded expectations. Yeah, I was blown away. I thought he was incredible.
Now, Tom, this is probably a good chance for us to segment quickly into something we'll be doing a bit later.
Yeah,
Um, but how would you feel about Goran Dragic on the Bucks?
I would love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Look, it's a larger conversation. I've been really tossing up between: do the Bucks need young talent that can develop, or do they need an old hand to calm them down? And he is a great example. Whichever way you sort of are on the spectrum, he's a great example of like an old calm hand who can sort of slow down a game, collect the players and lead. And so is he a free agent now?
He isn't. I think he's now officially a free agent. So
Yeah, I think he'd be good. My only concern is that I don't know if he has the 3-point shot that the Bucks want, but maybe they don't need that. Maybe we've got enough 3-point shooters. Yeah, so I
yeah.
wouldn't be disappointed. I'll put it. They can
Okay.
make worse selection. They have made worse decisions in the past.
In the recent past.
Not to start the grilling early. We'll get there, but they could certainly make poorer decisions than putting Dragic on their team. And I would have said that before the finals and playoffs, for the record as
Yeah.
well.
Okay, so all right, so let's get into the second pick here. Now, you've I'm not entirely sure how you're going if you're picking Goran Dragic first, but I have to say
it's
I'm
not
a bit
necessarily in
confused.
order. It's not necessarily like his one. I mean, I know it's like number one pick, but he was just the first person I thought of. So that's
Okay.
yeah.
I have to say the first person that I thought of, I don't know if you're going to allow this, Tom, even though this is the first person that I thought of, overachieving draft. For me, the first person that I had to say was Jamal Murray.
Yeah, I also considered him seriously. Yes.
Yeah.
Tell me why.
I'll tell you why. So, first of all, and we'll get into bandwagon teams later, is there a more exciting tandem of people than Jokic and Jamal Murray? Like, if you want to jump on a bandwagon now where people won't hate your decision, that is one of the funnest things. He over-delivered so much.
Yep.
I think he became a completely other player. Usually I think of him before this playoffs, I thought of him as inconsistent, can be a good 3-point shooter, but largely he's just kind of like, he's here or there.
Sure.
He's got a bit of like he has a bit of the Chris Middletons where he could be, he could score 12 points in a night or he could score 40.
Yeah.
Like it's just like, like the consistency wasn't there, but in the playoffs, the consistency was there and it was ridiculous. He was so good. So he definitely would be my number one pick for someone who just overachieved.
I would also say that on that comment you made about the whole Nuggets team, I would class them as the safest bandwagon selection you can make in the offseason. No one is going to be like, you shouldn't be jumping on that bandwagon because they didn't quite make it. I mean, they made it so far, but they're not obviously the Heat are the biggest bandwagons at the moment.
Yeah.
But mate, he was incredible. Just jumping on the back of that, my second pick from the same team, this will be highly controversial, I know, but Jeremy Grant, mate, people are sleeping on him. People are sleeping on Jeremy Grant. He had the impossible task of either D'ing up AD or LeBron for that series. And as much as they still had incredible series, I thought he played so well. I thought he had a couple of games where he got I think he got a playoff like he beat his playoff points like record. I think he got like 27 in maybe like game 3. I'm guessing now, but I thought he played so well. I thought he was more like pretty consistent for that team, and I thought that whilst everyone was worried about Murray and Jokic, who were obviously incredible, like they were obviously great, I thought that he was a really solid like addition to that team, and I thought he really played. He played better than what anyone thought he was going to play, especially on the defensive end.
Wow. All right. Well, okay. Now I'm seeing where you're going with these. This helps me make my next pick. So you're really going for people that you don't know, like you wouldn't think twice about generally, but now actually have made a name for themselves in the playoffs.
More or less. That's kind of my vibe.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Then my next pick's really easy then. So my next pick, like if we're thinking people that severely overachieved and you would have thought like, oh, they're okay beforehand and now you're like, they're legit. My next pick has to be Tyler Hero.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So the reason obviously I'm picking him, didn't even make first team all rookies. So, like people like Ja Morant got in front of him and stuff like that, which I think is fair. But in the playoffs, did he show that any team wishes they had him on their team? As we were watching them destroy the Bucks, I was thinking it would be great if we had him right now.
It hurts even the more that he's from Milwaukee as well.
I mean, if there was anyone where you just, with 1 minute left and they have the ball and you're afraid they're going to hit a three, he has to be in that sort of top list, even though he's a rookie. He honestly, every time he had the ball towards the end of close games, I actually felt comfortable that it was going in.
Yeah.
So massive overachievement for him, especially for his first year, to actually have awesome games and legitimately be clutch. I just got to pick him.
To piggyback, if we're picking Heat players, the other person I had, which might surprise, I had Duncan Robinson as my other player, but not because of his 3-point shooting. Obviously, he was an incredible 3-point shooter. But I actually thought I would put Duncan Robinson as like my most improved person in the whole bubble from the start to the end. His defense, by the time they got to that final series, was just like incredibly better, so far and away better than what it was when he started. I thought that he went from being an easy foul call to a legitimate like defender using his length. He even got a few, if we're talking about his offensive contributions, like forget about the 3-point. Everyone knows how good he is a 3-point shooter. But he even like there was a few times he got a few layups. I think he got as much of a dunk as Duncan Robinson can get. I don't know if you saw that in one of the games. He got like it was just sort of like a put in. But I thought he diversified his game, and I think that he really overperformed in that regards, especially defensively.
Yeah, he definitely, I mean, like this year for him has definitely been like putting him on the map. But yeah, the playoffs, anytime he got the ball, it was scary.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure next year the Bucks will have flashbacks if they have to go through Miami again of how they got torched from 3. And so fingers crossed that we don't see them again. But yeah, no, he had a great playoffs and he is just always scary. Even when he's shooting badly, you're still scared for him to get the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. He's just his quick release is insane. It's like Klay Thompson vibes. It's just you hate to see it if you're not on his team.
Okay. So your team currently is Goran Dragic, Jeremy Grant, and Duncan Robinson, and I've currently got Jamal Murray and Tyler Hero. My next player that severely overachieved in the bubble, and this player I have to say, like if we're going with people that are sort of more obscure that made a name for themselves. Someone who I actually legitimately thought was a joke player who actually ended up being quite big. I'm going to take, with my third pick, Lou Dort.
What?
Do you remember Lou Dort from the OKC series?
Oh, yeah, obviously a memorable player for me. Go on, give me.
So I'll lay the case out. So Lou Dort, first of all, I believe actually in the Hoopatheticals canon, we've made fun of Lou Dort before as a player who's like, why would you play this person? Even their name's dumb. But Lou Dort, locked down James Harden for a couple of games and weirdly hit some timely threes in that game 7 that they ended up losing in a very close game. But he severely overachieved because I thought he was going to be unplayable and ended up being one of the best players for a team that almost beat the Rockets. I mean, yeah, he just proved himself as a legitimate defender and like just as a great young player. He's kind of like he's got his potential so high after this as someone that teams would trade for just to lock down if the other player's got like a good 2-3. Plus, he's got a funny name. So, yeah, for that reason, I'm taking Lou Dort.
Wow. I'm not going to lie. I forgot he existed. So, good for him. Hopefully he has a bit more of a career than whatever he was having before. Hopefully he's got a few more prospects into the future. My next pick is actually a Lakers player. And I will be selecting Kyle Kuzma.
Excuse you.
Yeah, I think that Kyle Kuzma, he had some of the most efficient minutes off the bench for that team, and he had some of the quietest quiet achieving scoring performances, especially in that last series as well. I think like there were a few games he put up between 15 and 20 points, and no one noticed because LeBron and AD were both on like 25, 30. But his 3-point shooting was awesome. He defended well. I thought he played really good, and he's so young. Like, I'm thinking long term for the Lakers. Obviously, LeBron's only got, I think he's got 2 years left in the contract. AD will be around for a while. Okay, that's cool. But like, as far as young talent for the Lakers, I don't know, man. I think he was really awesome. I think that he had like a cool, calm, and collected attitude in really big games, which was matched, or I guess outmatched only by Tyler Hero. Like, I thought he was awesome. I thought he was really good.
So, all right, well, let me give you some stats because, okay. So I also thought he was a bit quiet. So now I'm looking at his stats. Let me just give you some of these stats that we're looking at here. He actually did really well. Let's have a look. So his 3-point percentage is not that good, 31%.
Okay.
But his corner 3-point percentage for the playoffs was 47%.
Wow.
That's pretty good.
That's not bad.
So leave him out in the corner. He averaged in the playoffs, he averaged 15.5. So you'll bang on between 15 and 20.
Yeah. Like, you've got a bench player on the Lakers who's averaging 15 points in the playoffs. Like, that's nothing to sneeze at.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like Caruso wasn't averaging those kinds of points, and he got the start. And he should, like, and I don't think that shouldn't have happened. But like, I think he played like, there's so many big hitting scorers on that team, and when people think of when the names that jump to your head when you hear big hitting scorers on the Lakers team, Kyle Kuzma is not one of them. But mate, he overachieved.
All right, so I'm not going to lie. A lot of the people that I've got left are some people that we already knew were good, but someone that I think took it to another level and I think is really good, had a great duel with Jamal Murray, was Donovan Mitchell. I think he overachieved as well this off season, the postseason. I mean, the reason that I'm putting him down is because he was one shot away from facing the Clippers, which I probably think they would have lost too.
Yeah.
But he was playing a crazy, crazy game by the time it got to that series. He looked so good. I think if you're a Jazz fan, you're stoked for next season, thinking that if he just takes that to even a slightly better level, they could be looking at a really high spot for the Jazz. If he can play like that, then they can legitimately go for a good spot. I think everything about his game just made me feel really confident that he's going to be a great player next year. And I mean, like, if he came to the Bucks, I'd be so stoked. So, he just really overperformed, and I was like, okay, he's actually good. I'm into it.
Yeah, if he went to any team, I think that team would be stoked. Like, he's only gotten better. Like, he's been great for years, and he was incredible in the bubble. So yeah, I fully agree with that.
Amazing. All right, Tommy, what is your last pick for players that overachieved?
I'm actually selecting someone from the Bucks because I think that he's got a really hard rap in the postseason and also in the bubble, and I think that he deserves to be defended despite his insane contract. I'm selecting Chris Middleton.
Wow.
And the reason for that is that he got so much heat. I think it was like the first few games in the Orlando series, he didn't perform
Mhm.
that well. And everyone piled on the crap on him. And then I think it was like after game 3 or 4, he started putting up his regular season sort of percentages and points. And even in the Heat series, he was averaging over 20 a game. I'm pretty sure.
Mm.
That's at a glance. Obviously, taking into account that the game 4, what was the game where he hit that awesome game winner?
Yeah, I
That
think it was
game,
4.
yeah. Like he took all of the bucks on his back, and I think that
Mm.
people pile the crap on him, and he's still a underappreciated like second player, like two man on that team. Everyone just talks about Giannis, how good Giannis is. He had a really great season in the bubble. I thought he played really well. Like his 3-point shooting was pretty good, and he didn't have his superstar for those last few games, and still played really good. He obviously wasn't like it wasn't good enough to beat the Heat, but like one man, like the rest of the Bucks were kind of crap. And not to get onto the Bucks talk already, but like no one showed up in the Bucks, and I actually
Mm.
think that for someone who was in a bit of a playing funk for a little bit, he worked hard and he came through. And I think that people have been putting disrespect on his name for years, and I don't want to see him go from the Bucks. But
Mhm.
so yeah, I think he played really well, and I think that if they went further in those playoffs, we would have continued to have seen him perform in a very Goran Dragic kind of way.
Oh.
Like it's that similar sort of like 20 points per game. He's not the superstar, but he's kind of like keeping the scoreboard ticking over when
Mm.
Giannis is on the bench, or the analogy, while Jimmy's on the bench, or whatever it is.
Mm.
So yeah, people hating on Chris Middleton. I don't think they should be.
Well, we'll get to Chris Middleton later because I got some notes about him.
Good.
But I'm very excited to get in. I mean, obviously, I can't disagree with this call. This season, Chris Middleton proved to me that like he's actually a good second player.
Yeah.
I think next season he can legitimately be a second fiddle. Like he's just every little bit that I've seen since he got that max contract. Like this season he was a little bit better. This bubble he was way better.
Yeah.
He's just developed a lot of stuff and he's become a lot better. So I'm really excited for next season. Okay, so my final pick, mate, someone who achieved much more than I thought they were going to do. Because I had basically written them off as a player and actually ended up being vital to the mild success of this team. But as players that purely overachieved from what I thought they were, I'm going to have to pick Carmelo Anthony.
He actually played all right, in fairness,
Yeah.
and that's as
He
much as I'll
was.
give him. As
He
much as I'll give
was. He was.
Are you trying to
Look,
bait me? I think you're just trying to
no,
bait me.
I'm sure he might rear his head in the overrated, underrated section. I'm sure, but I just thought, like, honestly, I thought he'd be getting like 10 minutes, and he might be posting like 10 points. I remember him in against the Lakers being very clutch, and they won a game, and I think he was part of the reason for it. It was honestly surprising to me, and now he's gone from out of the league to being a free agent this offseason. I actually think someone's going to sign him.
Yeah, I hope it's not us. If we sign him,
Yeah.
I'm burning my Milwaukee Bucks like shirt. Like you heard it here first on Hoopatheticals. No, I know what you mean though. No, he kind of actually reminds me a little bit of like Dwight Howard, someone who was
Mm.
like down and out. Everyone was kind of like, "Yep, that's your career," and then
Yeah.
comes back and has a decent season. I would actually, as an honorable mention on my honorable mention draft, I would put
Mm-hmm.
Dwight Howard, and for pretty much the exact same reasons.
Mm.
Like he even got some starts. But yeah,
Yeah.
like I thought he played incredibly well. He was such a like pest to the other team, which is all that he has to be. And I
Yeah.
think that yeah, to use your same vocabulary for Carmelo, like yeah, had some level of redemption, I suppose, which
Mm-hmm.
I can empathize with. But yeah,
All
no,
right.
fair cop. Maybe he'll get another contract.
I think he will. I actually think I think there's plenty of teams that would just use him as like someone who can just hang out on the three and then occasionally get him a mid range too. I think that even bad teams could use him. I think at this point,
I
just
think a
to
bad
like
team should. I think like like Detroit should pick him up or something.
Yeah, or even like the Hawks or something.
Yeah.
Just like a team that just needs something else. They need someone else to help out. Yeah, he could be good. Or even like, I would, if I was something like the Magic, I'd think about him because the Magic is like, what are you? You may as well have something going.
Let's not forget the Hoopatheticals. They are the most forgettably branded team. They literally, for someone who is branded by Disney, who are
Yeah.
like the branding kings,
Mhm.
they are just the most bland. They're bland. They're like porridge,
Yeah,
but before you
garbage.
put sugar on them. Oh man.
Okay, so just to run through our teams, Tom, you selected Goran Dragic, Jeremy Grant, Duncan Robinson, Kuzma, and Chris Middleton as your best overachievers of the playoff bubble. I've selected Jamal Murray, Tyler Hero, Lou Dort, Donovan Mitchell, and Carmelo. So people can look at those and judge us accordingly.
Oh, I'm sure
And
Ryan
judge us
Tennyson
a
will have
little
a
bit.
few things to say about my selections, but you know what, Rhino, you're not here, so forget it.
All right, well, let's. Ryan, of course, does go for a sort of bandwagon team at the moment, which is the Heat. I'd say that'd be pardon the pun, but the hot favorite for people to jump on the bandwagon for. But I sent you a list of teams that I think people can jump on the bandwagon for. Now, I think there's some teams that are off limits that you're not allowed to jump on the bandwagon for, and a lot of those are teams that finished in the top 4. So I'd say it's too late to jump on the Bucks bandwagon. You could probably just sneak in, but it's probably too late. The Clippers and the Lakers obviously too late.
Yep.
I'd say the Heat are too late. But there's some teams that are sort of up and comers that now is a great time to get the jersey, get the look, and get some pictures of you supporting this team to show us proof when they may potentially win. Now, the list that I sent to you, I think these are the funnest teams to jump on the bandwagon for. So the teams that I've selected are the Nuggets, the Suns, the Mavs, the Pelicans, the Grizzlies, and the Jazz. Now, all of those have good reasons for following them, and maybe we can go through each team just quickly and say why you might go for them. And then we can say our picks afterwards. How's that sound? Yeah? All right, well, let's kick it off with the Nuggets.
Let's do that.
The case here is pretty obvious with 2 young stars. Tom, why would you go for the Nuggets if you had to select them as your bandwagon team?
I just think Jamal Murray is just entertaining to watch, and he's so that this team, because they have no entitlement in the way they play, and this might just be my own bias coming through. It's why I hate the Blazers, but I just feel like with the Nuggets, they're always down and then they come back. You know what I mean? Like how many games in the bubble were they down 20 and then ended up winning? Like it was insane, and Jokic just. It does insane assists that I have no idea how he sees that opening. And like I said before, they've got many other players who are silent performers, like your Jeremy Grants, who make this team not. I think they've been like a bandwagon opportunity for the past few seasons. I'm pretty sure last season they were like 3rd in the Western Conference. Like they've been playing pretty well for a while, but everyone's sleeping on them. And I think that now people are going, oh wait, no, they're actually a decent team. Maybe we should listen to that.
Yeah, and I think your call of them being the safest pick out of these is the right call as well. Like that's this. If I had to guess which one will be in the NBA Finals out of all these, in the short amount of time, it's probably either the Nuggets or the Mavs. But we'll get into them shortly. Let's jump into the Suns. I know this is a team that you've got a soft spot in your heart for.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about why you like the Suns for if you want to jump on the bandwagon.
I just love how young they are and how much like fight they have. I saw the evidence of this even before their incredible bubble run. I was so devastated they didn't make it into the top 8. But I think that like Devin Booker, like everyone knows he's incredible. So there's no point wasting breath on that. But there's so many other players on that team. Like I really love Ricky Rubio on that team. I really love Aaron Baines. I think he's still
he's a free agent now, but he was good, really good on that team.
Yeah, I really loved him on that team. I don't know why they didn't sign him again. His 3-point shot was insane this season. I don't know if anyone remembers that. He was splashing threes. I can't remember the other names of the players. I like in honesty,
like a Kelly Oubre.
Yeah, Oubre. Yeah, I just think that they have so much like gutsiness. I don't see them as a team that's like in honesty is gonna go too far in the next season. Like your Nuggets and your Mavs and whatever. Like there's a good chance they're going to be in some kind of final situation. The Suns will do well to get into the top 8 next season. But I actually think that even despite that, they're going to play really entertaining basketball, and I'm hopping on that. I love watching them play. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, and I also think they're a team that's sort of like one piece away from being a legitimate contender. Like
Yeah.
if they signed even someone like a Paul George,
I actually think they
that
need a big man. I don't think they need another shooter. I think their shooting's actually not that bad. I think they need they need someone to replace who's better than Aaron Baines. That's what they need.
who would be interesting for them? Like, I mean, I would never wish for this, but like if they got someone like a Brook Lopez even, I think it could
Yeah.
be interesting.
Yeah, I think that would be really interesting. Someone, yeah.
Just for my quick thoughts, I mean, like they just seem like one of the funnest teams in the NBA. Like low expectations, they can deliver some really fun highlights, and I mean, like their time for being a horrible team and like the joke of the NBA is officially behind them, which is great for that franchise. So you really
Finally,
can get in,
it's been
get into the ground floor.
30 years, really, since the 90s. They've been crap. But hey, that's behind us. The future is bright, like the sun.
All right, well, let's jump into the next team here, which is the Mavs. Obviously, a very fun team to get in on now after this playoff performance by Luka. I guess the case here really is you're looking at the surrounding players around Luka and going, any team would love these surrounding players around a superstar. Tim Hardaway, Seth Curry, Chris Stapps, or like any team would want any of those players. Plus, Luka has just shown that he's so much better than I could have even imagined anyone being. Like, no matter how old, he's better than that. He's awesome.
I just love that he looks like he's got a dad bod, but just plays so well. He's the most unassuming player. Whoever scouted him really did well. Like, mad props. Nah, I'm fully on board. I felt like I was basically on the edge of the bandwagon for them last season. Yeah. They're just so fun to watch. I really actually, not to be a downer, but I actually feel like Porzingis kind of underperformed a little bit. It might be because of the injury and kind of lingering injuries, but there's more potential for him. I feel like he hasn't really reached his Mavericks height yet, as far as kind of the two-man to Luka. But mate, don't even get me started on Seth Curry. We'll mention him later. And Hardaway Jr., a big fan of him as well. So yeah, I love that team. They're fun to watch. Again, another team like the Nuggets that had multiple games where they were down by like 20 and somehow scrambled it to be a win. So yeah.
And I'd have to say, like, the thing that really scared me with them was when they played the Bucks in the bubble. And like, admittedly, the Bucks didn't play their best in the bubble, but the way that Luka handled the Bucks had no answer. They didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And they were the best defensive team, I think, in the regular season. So that should be...
Luka's bigger than what you think. I think people forget, because he doesn't seem that big or that heavy, but he's actually a lot more solid, and people like underestimate his influence in the paint and like how he can kind of still, have his way with centers and stuff in the paint. That's what I think is his like underrated aspect of his game. Everyone knows he's got a good shot. Everyone knows he can do assists, but like he's bigger than you think he is.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the case for that. I'd also say pretty safe option if you wanted to jump on a bandwagon. Next team, this is a bit more of a wild card, but I think could be one of the funner teams, is the Pelicans. Tommy, what would you say is the case for the Pelicans as a bandwagon team?
Yeah, no, I mean, everyone loves Zion Williamson. Like, I actually think he's a little overrated, but he is still really fun to watch. Like, let's be honest, especially when he just basically bullies like people in the paint. Like, he's massive, man. I also love. There was this particular game in the last season. I can't remember who they were playing, and he just started splashing threes. I don't know if you remember that. He was
his first game.
Oh, was it the first game? Oh, snap!
It was his first game back after his injury, and he couldn't miss.
It was incredible. He has that kind of like almost LeBron, like doesn't even jump. He's just sort of standing there, like throwing up these pancake of a shot, and it was going in. And I thought that was really cool. Obviously, I love JJ Redick on that team. I think he's still got so much to give, and I kind of see JJ Redick as like the Pelicans version of Jimmy Butler on the Heat, like, and not just because they played on 76ers together, but just like experience, a really good leader, cool, calm, and collected, and I think could like unify that young Pelican team to be pretty good in that conference.
Yeah, and I think like the thing that's so good about them, and I've said this before, is their team makes sense. Like
Yeah.
just having Lonzo as your point guard with a sort of Zion, Brandon Ingram, JJ Redick, Derek Favors lineup makes sense, you know?
Do you think
And so
Brandon
you just
Ingram's going to stay though?
well, we can get to that in a bit.
Okay.
We can do that.
Sorry to jump the gun.
No, that's all right. I mean, like, I think I'm sure they'll offer him a lot because they traded AD for him, kind of, and a bunch of other
You're
pieces. So
dumb
I'm
not
sure
to.
he,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, so I think if he stays, that's just a really fun team. And I think the thing about them is when they're playing well, they have the potential to be a really, really good team.
Yeah.
Uh, and they're young as well, so you'd be getting in pretty close to the ground floor here. And I think you could maybe see a championship in a couple of years if
Wow.
Zion turns out to be who we think he
Oh,
is. You know?
sure. Yeah. Look, if I was them, I'd be offering Brandon Ingram some serious dollars because
Yeah.
he wasn't an all-star this year, was he?
No, he was.
And
This was his first All
oh, it was
Star.
his first year. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just I think he was averaging like almost 30 points a game. It was crazy, man. He was looking so good. He kind of reminds me of like, I mean, I might have said this on a previous episode. He reminds me of like a young KD.
Yeah.
Like he's got that lanky sort of
Yeah.
vibe, and he's really athletic and killer sniper. So
Yeah.
yeah,
He's awesome.
yeah,
I also like that he looks baked all the time.
yeah. I think it's
like
fun.
his eyes.
He's
It's good stuff.
unassuming in that regard. He looks kind of because he sometimes looks even a little lazy on the court as well. Like he can
Yeah.
be almost a little lethargic, and then he just like gets hot. He's the microwave, mate. He just
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Our second to last team that you might be able to jump on the bandwagon for is your Memphis Grizzlies. Tommy,
Oh,
now this team, I think the obvious number one reason you'd follow them is Ja Morant. Just seems like one of the funnest players in the NBA to watch. I love that he tries to dunk on everyone. It doesn't matter who you are. He's going to jump as high as he can and try and catch a body. I think he's so fun to watch. And the rest of the team is mildly underrated, I think. Like some of their other players that start for
agreed.
them are really fun as well. And I
Yep.
think like if they can get a good coach, they nearly snuck if the season ended at the time it did, they were in the 8th seat. So this is a time to
Yep.
get in while they're still building. They've got some good assets, but they're still really fun to watch.
Completely agree. I think like Valanciunas played so well as their center. I also really love Jaren Jackson Jr.
Mm-hmm.
The even like Grayson Allen, like their shooting so underrated. Like obviously not superstars, but like that it's a really solid team, and it kind of reminds me a bit of the Pelicans, where it's like they don't have as many names, but the lineup works and they play really well. And I think again, I would be making sure that Ja Morant becomes like a player that stays there. Like I'd be offering him some serious money because he's going to be great. He's already great.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're really fun to watch, and I'm already just enjoying watching them. So
Yeah, me too, man. Yeah, they're so good. All right, the final team that you could potentially jump on the bandwagon for, and I thought this one, it just depends on what they do with this offseason, but is the Jazz after this final bubble playoff. I think this is probably the fringiest. I don't know if I'd jump on this team, but I think they've got some fun elements. Like I think they've got the recipe for a decent team. They're just missing someone, I'd say.
yeah, I agree. I don't know what they are missing either. It might be another like a second point guard or something. I feel like they need another shooter. Like that's what I think. They kind of remind me a little bit of almost like they're like a better version of Portland in the sense that they're very like one player centric. Like Rudy Gobert's good, but he can really suck when he wants to.
Yeah.
I think Joe Ingles is the most underrated player on that entire team. He is so good, and it's not just because he's Australian, mate. Like he's incredible, and I think he fits so well on that team, and he won't leave. So yeah, I don't know about the Jazz. I think I struggle with them because they're in such a tough conference, and they don't seem to be tough enough. I don't know. I don't know if they've got the metal to deal with like a Mavs or a Nuggets. Do you know what I mean? Um, but I do like watching them play. And Donovan Mitchell's sick.
Yeah,
I
I
think
like
he's going
that.
to get traded though. Oh, not traded.
Are you there?
He's gonna take a better contract. Like I can just see him going somewhere else so easily.
Tommy, out of these teams, which one would you, if you had to pick a team to bandwagon, which team would you jump on?
I want to pick two, but probably the Mavs.
Yeah, I reckon the Mavs is as well for me, to be honest.
Just because I really love the Suns. They're my second, like the other team I was tossing up with, but I don't know if they're actually going to be that. I don't know if they're going to win that much in that conference or like be that high up in that conference. Whereas I look at the Mavs and I go, well, they're actually legitimate contenders for a conference finals. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, if I want to watch a team that's going to win, because that's why I'm hopping on the bandwagon, I'm picking the Mavs.
Lovely. Yeah, I think they just seem like the funnest, and I think they've got the highest upside, and they've got some of the funnest role players, I'd have to say. I think, Tom, you might have some of the strangest who you think is overrated and underrated in the NBA, and I love it personally. So
Thank you.
I have asked you to come up with your top 5 most overrated and underrated players. I've also got a list, but I'm mostly here for you. So, Tom, please, without further ado, give us your top 5 most overrated people. We'll go one at a time and just quickly go through them.
Okay. So with my overrated players, I've chosen players that represent the entire teams as well, because I'm sick of the players and I'm also sick of the teams. So the first one I'm selecting is Kyrie Irving and the whole of the Nets. Kyrie Irving for me is what everyone says Jimmy Butler is. Everyone says Jimmy Butler's cancer, or at least before this, before this season, and that he's so bad in locker rooms when he's actually not. And Kyrie Irving actually is cancer. He actually does ruin like team gelling and morale and like what makes a team a team. Case in point, watch any of the Nets' performances last season that didn't have Kyrie Irving in. They actually looked like a decent team. Whenever he was playing, they sucked. I think that he's obviously got awesome handles. He's obviously like a great shooter, but what makes someone good in the NBA is not whether you have sick handles or a great shooter. It's actually whether you can play in a team and defend. And because if it was that, well, the professor from YouTube would be in the NBA, but he's not. Um, and I just think that Kyrie Irving, like he can't. His defense is trash, and he just doesn't play well with teams or with coaching staff either. And I think people are already talking about how the Nets are going to be this and that, this season, and with KD coming back, la di da di da. Forget it. Nah, I reckon I can just see this being a whole nother Boston, game of charades, and. Anyway, I've got to try and not rant when we go through these overrated because I get so passionate about it. I'm just sick of Kyrie Irving, and I love watching him play as well. I think he's really entertaining. I just think that he's trash as far as a team play is concerned.
Yeah, I also had him as on my overrated list. I'm not going to lie. For the exact same reasons you laid out. Oh. But because the other thing that I thought, and at the end I actually went against it. I'm like, but it's kind of hard. Would you trade him for Eric Bledsoe?
Absolutely. Like, at least he can get buckets.
Okay, I just think that he could potentially ruin that team.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Actually, he could. I also don't think that he'd be happy next to Giannis. I just can't see him wanting that as a player. Like he barely was coexistent with LeBron. Yeah.
All right, good. So we got our first one, and remember, Tom, restrain yourself as you go into your second most overrated player.
Okay, no worries. My next player, and I will keep it short and sweet because I can't just talk about how crap they are all the time. It's Joel Embiid and the 76ers. I don't know why people think he's good. He's so weak. He tries to go for every foul call. He doesn't actually get buckets. He's not good in a pressure situation. He is trash when he's not playing at home. I mean, the whole team is trash when they're not playing at home. And he's so overrated. It's insane. People think like him and Ben Simmons are like this superstar duo when Ben Simmons is actually a really good player who gets a lot of trash for not having a good jump shot, but he doesn't need to. At this stage at least. And Joel Embiid, I'm sick of his crap. I just think he's washed up already, and he's only halfway through his career, but he just plays like he's washed up, really.
See, this is what I was hoping for when I pitched this segment. I knew Embiid was going to be on it. I knew he was going to be on it, and I knew you'd have these thoughts. I love him being washed up already. I feel like that's the great Bull quote from this. All right. Well, that's good. All right. Well, I'll give you one of mine. This guy after the finals, I think, has gotten too much hype because I genuinely think I would never trust him with the ball. I would never trust him in a clutch situation, and I would never ever wish for the Bucks to trade for him. Is KCP? I have watched him for seasons. And he feels like, to me, honestly, I would rather Giannis take a three than him most of the time. I'm not joking. Like, he, to me, seems like the most overhyped three-point shooter in the NBA. Like, honestly, it's like AD is definitely a better three-point shooter than him. And this guy's in the team as a three-point specialist. I mean, I just don't know. I just don't know what we're doing with him. So
I don't even know what he brings. Yeah. Like, when I look at his role playing in that Lakers team, I actually don't, because it's not three. He wasn't hitting threes, and he's not a defender, and he's not driving the lane, and he's not taking mid-range shots. I don't know if there's any other roles you can play in a team. He's not a center. You know what I mean? Like, I actually don't know what he's doing. Yeah. And the fact that he has such a ridiculous name doesn't help either. Like, mate, just stop. He needs to go. Honestly, I actually think that if he went to a crap team, it'd be better for him because he'd probably be able to play a bit more. Yeah. You know, like if he went to like Chicago or Detroit or the Hawks, he'd probably see more minutes as like a good backup point guard or something like that, you know? But yeah, trash.
Yeah. I mean, like, I've just heard so many podcasts recently being like, now we have to officially take KCP seriously, and I think we don't.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. Who's your next pick, mate?
My next pick is Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics. Everyone's talking about how good this player is. Nah, mate. Everyone talks about how good Jason Tatum is, and he's okay. He's okay. He's not that good. I think that Jaylen Brown is better than him.
Oh my God.
I really do. Maybe he doesn't put up maybe he doesn't put up the same points and he won't hit the same clutch shots. But people forget Jaylen Brown hit a couple of really clutch threes in that Heat Celtics series, and even before that. And I just think Jason Tatum. I was watching some of his first half performances in those series, and I was just like, you're crap. Like, you're meant to be the star player of this team, and he's symbolic of the whole Boston Celtics. People think they're great, but they're not. They're all right at best. Like, they're all right. I actually really love Kemba on that team. And I think, what's that? The German center. I forgot his name.
Tice.
Yeah, Jason. Tice actually played really well also. I think between him, Kemba, Jaylen Brown, they're actually really good players, but I think there's so much hype around Jason Tatum, and I don't think he's the next whatever you think he's the next. He's not. He's all right. He can get better though. He can get better, but I also hate his facial hair, so.
Just a nice little dig at the end there, just to make sure you just twist the knife while it's in. That's good. So, all right. So here's someone, my next overrated pick. I think this is going to be controversial, and I think you actually won't agree with me. But I am going to have to say that after this finals and stuff, I think an overrated player is Bam Adebayo.
Get stuffed. Actually leave the podcast.
Here's why.
Oh,
all right.
My goodness.
So let me lay out the case. So Bam Adebayo, people here's the thing. I think he's a good player. I just don't know, is he ever going to be like excellent at anything outside of defending? Is my question.
Yes.
Like, okay. Because from what I saw, I thought like he was a good defender, and made the occasional mid-range shot. But I was people are acting like he's the sort of like second coming of Draymond Green. It's like he's definitely not that good.
He's like 23, dude. Like, what was Draymond Green doing when he was that age? I think like give the man a break. He was also injured for like good or had a niggling injury for much of the bubble. So I thought he was. I
Not an
think
excuse.
I think he's as good as everyone says. I mean, he's getting a little bit more, coverage because of the finals, sure, but he's been great all season, mate. His key game is incredible, and forget it, mate. I thought I was meant to be the token, like, controversial shock jock of this podcast, and you're coming out with trash like that. At least Ryan will probably hate me less now. Bloody hell.
All right, who's your next most overrated pick, mate?
My next overrated pick is probably actually not that controversial and overrated anymore because of his playoffs performance, but it is Paul George, playoff P, way off P, brick builder P. And also, in keeping in theme with my overrated, the whole Clippers. Everyone talking about this from the start, how good the Clippers were, mate. They had a deep team, but they just couldn't play together. And Paul George kind of really just embodies this to a T. I don't know why people think he's so good. He's got a decent shot, but he doesn't defend. I don't know how many times I watched in all of the Clippers series, whenever they were getting back on defense, he was kind of just jogging back as if he was doing some like baseline, running drills, but not even like to pick anyone up. And the amount of times I saw him do poor fouls, he's defensively a joke. If he misses a few shots, he just gets all defeated and then just misses even worse after that, and then just resorts to taking trash threes. I mean, everyone points out the side of the backboard that he hit, that the last three he took, whatever. But people forget the three he took before that was a straight on three, wide open, and he hit the rim. And I think he's so overrated. When he went to, LA, everyone was like, oh, this is it. Him and Kawhi, forget it. Nah, I'm remembering. He's crap.
All right, so my next overrated. This is going to be controversial, maybe even more so than my last one. And I think to be fair, people can go either way with this, but I think LeBron's a bit overrated.
What? The finals MVP is overrated.
Came second in the MVP race and just won a championship.
You idiot. He's not. How could he possibly? He's arguably better than Michael Jordan, and you're saying he's overrated.
I mean, I think that's where I'm thinking it's overrated. I think it's not that he's not a good player. Obviously, a fantastic player. I just don't know. I'm hearing a lot of GOAT talk. I'm not buying in, frankly.
Oh my goodness.
I just don't think the GOAT of the NBA, like the all-time GOAT of the NBA, would complain about the refereeing in a Rocket series. That's my thinking, if I'm being honest. I personally hold that kind of stuff against him. It is so weak. Like, you're talking about MB being weak. Publicly reporting that the refereeing was bad is so sad.
That's fair. Look, I will agree that I really struggled with viewing the NBA purely because LeBron is like, he's worse than Kyle Lowry, honestly. He's actually, and Chris Middleton does this as well, where it's like every single call, every single time he gets into the paint, he thinks he deserves a foul, and he actually gets them most of the time. That's the annoying part. He actually gets most of the foul calls, but he's so entitled and annoying. And the amount of times he traveled, I don't know if you even do a cursory look at his feet play. Why are you getting me ranting? This is about your road play. Anyway, I know what you mean. I still think he's incredible. I know what you mean.
Yeah, I just think it's just like, because you know who he is. If you play pickup basketball, he's the guy that takes the ball, drives it into the paint, and then no matter what you do, he goes, "That's a foul." If he misses, he's like, "That's a foul," and just takes the ball back up to the top of the three without looking at you, and you're like, "Well, why? What are you doing?
Why am I here?"
Now, Tommy, I want you to be the last person. I want you to close us out on this segment. So I'm going to just say my last person who's overrated, just because I'm always keen to hear your stuff. So I'm going to dive in, and I'm going to say the last person who I think is overrated, and I think this is going to come as a surprise, is DJ Wilson.
Okay. How is he overrated, mate? Who's rating DJ
The
Wilson?
man should not be in the NBA.
I just love the only people who are rating DJ Wilson is the Bucks back office. They are the only people who think he's worth anything. No one even knows his name outside of poster low light video compilations on YouTube, of which he is the star. Tell me why you think he's overrated, mate.
I have not seen a single minute of him playing basketball where I'd go, that's a man who should be in the NBA. Every time he gets the ball, he looks confused. He has no discernible reason to be in the NBA. It's like, oh, it's like, is he a good rebounder? Couldn't tell you. Can he shoot a three? No. Like, does he have a post game? No. Can he defend? No. Like, what? Like, honest to God, Thanasis Antetokounmpo is twice as good as he is.
He had one good game. DJ Wilson had one good game last season. I can't remember who they were playing. It might have been like the Hawks. So look, I don't know if that counts. But he had one good game where he put up like 20 points. And I think, again, it was because Giannis and Chris and no one was playing. You know, everyone was resting. And he had one good game. But I know what you mean. He does look confused. I would rather see Thanasis on the court before DJ Wilson.
Like, honest to God, it looks like a guy who's just like an athletic guy, and they've just thrown him a jersey, and they're like, mate, just run out there and see what you can do. And because every time he gets the ball, he looks around like he's never held a basketball in his life. He's like he's not even looking at his own plays. He's just looking into blank space. I don't understand what he's doing.
Well, if the Bucks have any modicum of sense and business, insight, they'll be trading him faster than you can say DJ Wilson poster YouTube video. The amount of times I've watched him get his ankles broken is just, I mean, it's incredible. The poor guy, because he's big. He's a big dude, but he tries to play like an athletic game, but he just gets his ankles broken all the time. It's like, buddy, just play a bit further off him, like just, nah, fair enough.
And the other thing as well, just finally, I don't want to go on a massive rant about him, but just the final thing. Have you ever seen him try and set a screen? He'll set it and then run away from where he's supposed to be going.
I've seen that.
The man doesn't understand how basketball's played. And for that reason, I don't think he should be in the NBA.
He doesn't roll. He just runs like perpendicular to the screen. I don't know if you've seen this. Yeah. He doesn't actually roll to the basket. He just runs back to the 3-point line just for a spot-up shot. It's like, but mate, that's not how it works. You're meant to roll to the basket for the layup.
Anyway, hopefully we see less of it next season. But anyway, sorry, Tommy, round us out.
My final player, and this is a game time decision for me, but in the whole arc of things really isn't. I don't think any of our listeners or my listeners will be surprised at this decision. My last overrated player and overrated team is Damian Lillard and the Portland Trailblazers. Mate, look, no one can deny that he has an incredible 3-point shot, both like in range and just, from a regular three. Like he incredible shooter. But why does everyone think that he can't defend? Like he puts up heaps of points only because the rest of the team are crap. Like that's literally it. And yes, he can drive to the lane, but he just gets every call. He's actually kind of like LeBron in this regard, where he complains about every call and gets just about every call and makes most of his money on free throws and 3-pointers. And I don't think he's like improving his game or deepening his game. Like we're talking about players like Duncan Robinson that have a great 3-point shot and then, developed in the ways of his defense and even getting a few 2-pointers and stuff. I can't see Damian Lillard doing anything other than just trying to work on his 3-point shot at every training. You know what I mean? Like he's not doing anything that Steph Curry hasn't already done. He's like a worse version of Steph Curry. Like honestly, but Steph is still better in so many ways. I just think that they're so overrated and overhyped, and everyone thinks that they're this incredible team when they're not. They're not. Like they're all right.
Yeah, I mean, I actually kind of agree with you. Yeah, I kind of agree. I think that there is a lot of hype because The best thing about Lillard is the clutch highlights. Obviously, that's the best part of his game, which is, obviously saying goodbye to Paul George, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I agree. They haven't done anything. So, well, let's quickly do our underrated. What I'll do is I'll just read my list first, and then you tell me anyone who you want to pull me up for. All right. Here's my underrated list heading into next season. All right. Tell me if any of these names you don't think are underrated. Lou Dort, D'Angelo Russell, Rajon Rondo, Kristaps Porzingis, and Steph Curry.
Wait, hold on. Steph Curry is underrated.
I think he's underrated heading into next season. Just because, here's what I've been hearing. I've been hearing this. I'm serious. I've been hearing people say, the Warriors will be looking for a top 4 spot next season, like when they come back. They are going to be looking for a number 1 slot. Like they're not here to make a top 4 and feel pretty good about it. I watched some of their old games before they got KD in this quarantine. They are 100% looking for that number 1 slot, and I actually reckon they're going to get it.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's why I think they're underrated.
Look, credit where credit's due. Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, and it's been said on First Take many times, so I can't claim this as my own opinion, but they are the best backcourt to have ever existed in the history of basketball. As a shooting guard and a point guard, you literally cannot get better than Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. I do not care who else is in that conversation. They are the best. Having said that, I don't know who else is on that team who's any good. Draymond is still there, I guess, but he's, again, a little washed up these days. He's still pretty, he's all right, but he's definitely on the tail end of his career. I don't know if they're going to be able to get to the top 1, the first seed, just on the virtue of Steph and Klay splashing threes. I think they need more than that.
Well, Tommy, you have to remember that they've got an Andrew Wiggins and a second overall pick sitting in their arsenal at the moment. So those two could become something, or that's depending on how they played, if they like Wiggins, maybe they can make that into something.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair cop. My underrated players, I've got more than 5 here, so I need to kind of just select them, but we'll see how we go. My first one, which I don't think is actually controversial or underrated player, is OG Anunoby.
Mm-hmm.
He's awesome. He's so good on the Raptors, and on a team that is still underrated somehow, he is an underrated player. And I just that 3-pointer he took with 0.5 of a second, win that, and I know they lost the series, but to win that game against the Celtics was sick. That was awesome, and he's a great defender as well. So I think he's severely underrated. I've got Kelly Olynyk, I've got Dante DiVincenzo, I've got Seth Curry, and I've got Kobe White. And these players I've mentioned in part before. I'll start with Kelly Olynyk. He lit it up from 3 in the Bucks series and was consistent all the way through the playoffs. I do not care what anyone says. He's incredible. He's so good. Offensively, so underrated. Defensively, he's decent as well. And I think the other reason he doesn't get more minutes is because there's other great options on that team, which is fine. But I think Kelly Olynyk, mate. People sleep it on him. His 3-point shot. I remember watching that Bucks, the series with the Bucks, and cringing every time he got the ball and went up for a 3 because he kept hitting the bloody thing, and it killed us. Dante DiVincenzo. He got a bad rap in the bubble, in the playoffs rather, because he got all frazzled and he got nervous and he didn't perform. But his defense, I see him as like a Lou Williams, kind of like a Rajon Rondo, in that he just does these smart defensive plays, gets the steals, and is just a pest. And I think that people kind of just leave him be, and that's his greatest advantage at this moment, because no one knows or cares who he is. But he's actually a really good defender. And offensively, I think he's only gotten better in the last. I think he's only played really 1 season. The other season didn't really count, but. I think that offensively he's getting better. His 3-point shot can be good. I remember there was a few games against one particular game against the Lakers at the start of the year, and he shot really well. So yeah, I actually really like Dante DiVincenzo. I do not want the Bucks to trade him at all. Not to get too much into the Bucks talk.
Just quickly, I have to say, also an underrated rebounder. He gets a lot of rebounds for someone who plays shooting guard.
Yep, agreed. He kind of, in that sense, reminds me of Tyler Hero. like gets heaps of rebounds. You're like, how does that even happen? Who else did
Yeah.
I say? Seth Curry. Look, my opinion on Seth Curry. Everyone just sees him as like a spot up 3-point, specialist, and that is doing the man such a disservice. I had so much fun watching him in the Clippers series doing these like baseline like mid-range shots, and he just kept splashing them. He has a really good floater on him. He has a great good eye for the assist, and I think defensively he's underrated. I think people just think, oh, he's small and he's crap, and I don't think he is. I think Seth Curry is a great addition to the Mavs team. Like he's never going to be his brother, but he doesn't need to be. Like, and I think that on that team, he slots in literally perfectly in that team. Ricky Rubio, yeah, I don't actually know why the Jazz let him go. I thought he was like what I was saying before, where they need like another sort of point guard other than Donovan Mitchell. I thought Ricky Rubio fitted really well in that team. Maybe I'm missing something huge, but I thought he played really well. I think he's a really good playmaker and he has really good basketball IQ. I mean, he's got more opportunity for minutes and to play, with a bit more flexibility on the team on a team like the Suns, I guess, because he's obviously in a top higher tier player than what he was on the Jazz. But I think he's really good. I really love watching him play. I think his 3-point shot's not that bad. People think it's not that great, but it's not that bad. And I think he's got decent mid-range floater as well. So, yeah, and Kobe White, so much potential. I just love watching him play. He's so exciting. He's got a sick throw. And he's so quick. He's just like this. It's like this throw running around, just getting buckets. And I dropped the stats on the last episode we did with Kobe White, but my man is playing great, and he needs to get into a better team where he can actually be developed and get out of the Bulls because nothing's happening for him there.
So I knew Seth Curry was going to be on here. I forgot Kobe White was obviously going to be on here. What a mistake on my behalf. I'm glad that you got the chance to lay out the case, though.
What are your reactions to my players?
I'll run through quickly my other underrated people. So I had Lou Dort. I've already made the case for him, so no need to refresh old wounds, but I think any team could use him. D'Angelo Russell, I think now that he kind of had a bad run on the Warriors and the Timberwolves ended up doing really badly, I think people are sort of sleeping on him, but he is someone that I think like any team that's got a big guy and needs like someone else, he's the perfect someone else. Like if you've got I know you don't like Embiid, but if you were to replace Simmons with Russell, that team makes a lot more sense. And I think he's like awesome, to be honest.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I actually think that D'Lo is pretty good. I think I don't know why he ever went to the Warriors, but I think that I don't know if he'll stay at the Timberwolves either. That feels like a weird fit for him.
Rondo. I just think he's the perfect backup point guard for any team because he's so good at slowing down the pace of the game or making those sort of weird defensive plays that just annoy people. He's very annoying as a player, which is his best feature. And I just think like even if he was to come off the Bucks bench just to slow us down occasionally in moments where we don't know what to do, I would love that.
Very similar to Dwight Howard and what you said about Carmelo Anthony revived his career in this bubble. Like people kind of thought that he was down and out and, he'd had his time on the Celtics, whatever. And he showed some of the layups he was getting. It was like, wow, that's really athletic. Like, well done. I was really impressed. And he hit some really out of rhythm 3-point shots. I don't know if you saw that especially the finals. Like he'd get the ball and he'd be like about as flat footed as you could be and then just splash the 3. And I was like, whoa, okay. Because they just left him open. They were like, oh, he's not going to take the shot. And he took it a few times and hit it. And he's definitely got a few more seasons in him.
Yeah, totally. I think he's so good. He's so good at adjusting the pace of play. Whatever pace you don't want to play, he'll set it up so that it's that pace, which I think is great for a point guard. And my final person is Kristaps Porzingis. People are sort of like here and there. They're like, oh, he could be a good trade piece, whatever. I actually love him as a player. I just wish he was slightly better in the post, but he's so good defensively when he wants to be. Like the amount of times I've seen him knock a ball into the backboard, he's just so big. And I think like he's one of those things where it's like you forget how big he is, but he's 7'3". And
It's
so it's just this
massive.
ridiculous height. Like the fact that he can shoot a 3-pointer at that height, and
A
you know,
big
like, and
three-pointer,
he's
mate.
sort of, yeah, he's great. And I remember also he cooked the Bucks when Luka was injured this season. And I remember
Yeah,
watching that and going,
that sucked.
if he can keep that going, they're gonna be a really good team. Yeah.
Yeah, he's again kind of reminds me of like, I mean, I know he's been injured and stuff. Well, maybe actually the analogy works in better, like KD, like long and
Mm,
just ridiculous shooter. And he has a very deceptive long 3-point shot where he just pulls up
mm,
from the parking lot and just this weird like quick fire just kind of tosses it and it goes in and you're not
yeah.
expecting it. Yeah, I really love Kristaps. I think he's got a lot of potential. I really hope he actually lives up to it this season.
All right, so that's our overrated, underrated heading into next season. Now, Tommy, it's the time you and I have been waiting for. It's Bucks chat time.
Uh, yes.
All right. All right, so I've sectioned it out. I'm sure you've got some things that you might want to talk about. But I think the biggest one that we've got to talk about is the biggest rumor that happened sort of as soon as they got eliminated and sort of up till now is CP3. How are you feeling about if we went after a CP3?
I don't hate it. I think, like, I mean, we're both a part of Facebook groups where people talk about this day in and day out very aggressively, but I still think that that's a good fit. My only problem with CP3 is that it's a short term fix. It's not like we're not building a dynasty with, CP3. He's got like literally got like maybe 2, maybe 3 seasons left in him. And so I think that, but that might be enough. I wouldn't be mad if we traded him. The only problem is I think we have to lobotomize like most of our team to get him. His contract's insane, so I think we'd have to like clear out much of the bench and a few starters as well. But hey, I got no problem seeing Bledsoe go. I got like there's plenty of other people I'm happy to cut for him. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like, here's the thing: the most important thing that he brings that the Bucks just don't have is half court offense. When the Bucks are stuck in the half court and they've got the wall going on Giannis, the most obvious play to me is just dump it to Middleton in the mid post and just use that to see if you can create something. With Chris Paul, now you've got options where Giannis can sort of lurk around the post area. And if he fakes in, all of a sudden the defense is going to have to collapse because Chris Paul can make the pass. He can also obviously hit the 2, hit the 3. I just think like it makes complete sense. And it's also someone, the Bucks also don't have anyone that you really trust in a clutch moment. We
Yeah,
don't have anyone where you go like, okay, well, we can dump it down here. He is someone you can dump it to in a clutch moment and know he'll pretty much make the right decision. So yeah, I actually think it would be awesome if they did it. I know we'll look like the Warriors look now, which is like, a couple of stars and then all these no names. DJ Wilson will probably see some more minutes.
No, please no.
But I actually think there's just like the unfortunate thing is how expensive Chris Paul is. But I
Yeah.
think the trio of Giannis, Middleton, and Chris Paul actually make complete sense with each other. None of them are in each other's way.
Yeah.
They all play different areas of the court. And so it's just, it makes complete sense to me.
I think you bring good leadership to that team as well.
Yeah, totally. Some other stuff that I've seen online, if you want me to get into it, unless you have something you want to jump in with.
Please go, mate. I mean, I do have other comments to make, but you go.
Just some other trades I've seen out there. Tell me if you like this one. Oladipo for Bledsoe and George Hill.
Obvious. Anyone
You take that?
Anyone for Bledsoe. George Hill's harder to let go of for me, but he is kind of old. But I also think he brings a lot of like experience to that team as well, because George Hill is the closest we've got to playoff calm, and slowing a game down and sort of collecting the team. That's the closest we've got. The only problem with Oladipo is I feel like he hasn't quite been the same since his injury. I feel like and that might be just because he doesn't feel at the paces anymore. Like he might need a trade, but I don't know. I feel like something's off with him. That's the sense I get, but I can't put my finger on it.
Some other ones we saw, Bogdanovic. The Bucks, some reports that they're particularly interested. Obviously a great fit, 3-point shooter.
Yep.
And he's also beaten the Bucks single-handedly with some last-minute shots himself.
I have no problem with him. I think he'd be a really good addition. Yeah, I think like I would like to see how they go. My only problem is that I think the Bucks need to be wary of making mid-level trades. Like I think they've done a lot of like, this is another good, piece. This is another good addition. And I think we've got a lot of good middle of the road like players. And I think we need another superstar. That's the thing. Like my battle is, like I said before, do we take someone who's going to be a superstar, who's young, who can build with Giannis and Chris, or do you bring someone in who's already got that, who's still got, like a CP3 or something, who can, complement now and go? And I think that as much as a young person's enticing, I think we need an older person now, because Giannis is all like, oh, I'm going to stay, I'm not going to go. I don't doubt that at all. But there's only so many MVP seasons you can have and still not even make the finals. You know what I mean? Like, that's two in a row. And I know they only just missed out last time, and but this time it was not that at all. So anyway, you go.
The only other things that I was sort of thinking in my head was the Brooklyn Nets have too many point guards at the moment. They've got Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Kyrie Irving. One of them has to be available for a trade. Would you trade someone like a Brook Lopez for a Karis LeVert?
I really like LeVert. I actually also like Dinwiddie. I think they both play, and these are examples of players that shine when Kyrie's crap isn't souring the team. I think they play really, really well, and because the team's young, and I don't know, they just make plays that are ballsy, and it pays off. I really like LeVert. I hope they trade Bledsoe. The Bucks are so loyal to people that don't like reward it. Like, Bledsoe has literally... You look at Chris Middleton, yes, he's got an insane contract, which I don't agree with, but he has improved. Like, over the years, he has improved. Bledsoe has plateaued since... He's plateaued since being in the Bucks. He's literally not a single part of his game has gotten better. I literally... His defense is his calling card, and it's as good as what it was at the start. I really don't like Bledsoe. I really don't.
I know. I'm surprised he wasn't in your overrated.
Well, that's the thing. No one rates him.
Rant that you've got going.
No one rates him. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, like, I don't even think Coach Bud rates him. Like, here's what I think, mate. Here's what I think. One player who I would actually not mind seeing come to the Bucks. This could be a little controversial. I would like to see D Rose come to the Bucks.
Oh,
I think D Rose could be a really good addition because. And we had this conversation the other day, you and I. He's only 30. He's not that old. He's kind of like, people think he's had it and he's done, but he has done some like incredible performances last season and the season before. And I think that like he's kind of playing that underdog vibe where everyone's like, oh, no, he's done after the meniscus. He's all of his good seasons are behind him. I don't know, man. I think that he's a bit of an outdated player, which is unfortunate. I think he needs to like, do you know what I mean? Like, he plays like he's still in 2009 and 10. Like
yeah.
And he needs to modernize his game. But I think that he has pretty decent IQ, and I actually wouldn't mind him so much on the Bucks. I also don't think he's that expensive, which is an important thing for us because we don't have money.
Yeah, true. So that's probably, that would be a good one. Obviously you and I would take D Rose for Eric Bledsoe any day of the week. I can't stand Bledsoe. Bledsoe is the ultimate example of someone who you just cannot trust in the playoffs. Like, we now know that officially you can sign it.
We knew it before.
Yeah. No, he just know if the moment gets too hot, he's done. So yeah, I definitely think anytime we can get rid of him for anything. Like, I'm trying to work out what's the least I'd accept for Bledsoe. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I do.
Like, what is the worst player I'd accept? And I'll have to think about it a bit more.
Well, it's not much. Like, I honestly, I don't want much for Bledsoe. I just want to get him off the bill. And I think that like there's other people in our team who are replaceable like Bledsoe, where they're good. They add something, but they're replaceable. Sorry, you go.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I don't even think the Magic would trade Markelle Fultz for Eric Bledsoe.
That's maybe the most insulting thing we've.
I don't think they would
so far. I think that because I look at players like Wesley Matthews. He's a good defender. He's a really good defender and is sometimes a good 3-point shooter. But he's so replaceable on that team. I don't know. Like, there are so many people who could do what he is doing. I even like Brook Lopez actually really proved something to me. I felt in the bubble. I thought he was a really good defender, but he proved something offensively in the bubble, so I don't mind him staying. I don't know why his brother's there. I also like. There's so many bench players that we can just piff. Like, I think Kyle Korver will probably retire. I think he really had hopes that this was his championship. He'd get a championship this season, and unlucky for him, it didn't happen. But I think that he'll retire. I think we should get rid of Ersan Ilyasova. As much as I'm a big fan of his, he's just kind of he seems like Deadwood. He really does. And yeah, get rid of DJ Wilson. Who else on the bench? Pat Connaughton, an easy face. Like, what does he bring? He's athletic, but there's so many other players again that can do what he does. So, I just think we have a lot of decent players, but they're not. Then it's just obviously not enough. We're great at winning games. We're not great at winning important games.
Yeah. Well, I think that takes me to my next segment, which is thoughts for next season. And I think there's one very obvious thing that needs to happen, and that is the Bucks need to work out how to play against the wall.
Yeah, I think Giannis needs to keep working on his like mid-range and his three-pointer. And as far as playing against the wall, it's weird. There's not many. I don't think there's any other teams that get so frazzled by the wall like the Bucks do. Like, it's not. The Bucks aren't the only team that have the wall put against them. Do you know what I mean? But for whatever reason, whenever it happens, everyone in the Bucks just gets so nervous and sweaty about it. And I think that they just need to be creative. Like, for example, not have Giannis take every single fast break or every single take the ball up every time. And there was a little bit of that this season. You know, you saw George Hill take it up. But I don't know. As much as he's incredible in transition, the fact is that he's a bit of a one-trick pony, or we're a one-trick pony, rather. It's not his fault. We're a one-trick pony in transition, which is why the wall's so effective.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, like especially in the thing that the Bucks really don't have is half-court action, where people are running around setting screens. Like the Miami Heat killed us because their whole system is off-ball action, and that's how they get those open threes for. And I mean, as unopen as they are for any other player, Duncan Robinson can hit shots that, like with a hand in his face, and while he's turning around a curl. That's the stuff that the Bucks aren't running. Like, the Bucks are really good. If the defense is 1v1, the Bucks will destroy you. But if you start working out how to double team and triple team correctly, they're so confused, and it leaves like the only options being Middleton mid-range, which I still like, or Lopez posting up, because Giannis's post-up game, for as good as he is, he's not confident in it because he doesn't have any counter to. If he spins and they're still there, he doesn't have any moves to go to after that, you know?
He's not patient enough. He kind of, because I look at players like Jokic in the paint and in the post, who, if he gets double teamed, he's so relaxed about it. He does not care, and he'll wait. He'll be double teamed and wait for the open man and get the assist. Whereas Giannis, it's like, as soon as he's double teamed or triple teamed, he's trying to offload the ball as soon as possible. And you're right. We only have two plays. It's like Giannis in the post, it's Middleton in the mid-range, or it's Brook Lopez doing a weird post-up and hooking it in.
Yeah, I mean, like, just to kind of go off that, I mean, because for me, what Giannis really needs to work on, in my opinion, if I was the coach of the Bucks, I would be getting Giannis to work on the post-up, because that gets rid of the wall. Once you've got him in the post, how are you going to wall that off? You either get someone so close to him that there's going to be a wide open 3-point shooter, or he's one-on-one. And if he has at least a half decent post game, like even if he has like a little mid fade that I'm sure Chris Middleton could teach him, that becomes a real problem for defenses.
I don't know. I don't know if, like, Giannis is improving every season. I don't know if the focus of the Bucks is Giannis needs to improve. Like, that's not. If I think of like where are we getting our money's worth as far as like the most, like, Giannis can improve a bit more, but he's pretty much playing at capacity. If you've had back-to-back MVPs averaging 30 points or more or less 30 points in 2 seasons in a row, He can still improve, but not by much. But I look at players like DiVincenzo and Middleton, and even Brook Lopez, who have a much like bigger like opportunity to improve and grow, and or even just get someone new. To be honest, yeah.
Yeah, and I just think just quickly like it's definitely got to do with the coaching because the problem like they just need to solve that ball problem and they'll be a proper problem in the playoffs. But because people don't really play it in the regular season, the Bucks look so good in the regular season, and then as soon as you send a wall up, it's quite difficult. So they
It's
just
so
need to work out
hard.
what they're doing with that.
They
Really,
just like and I don't think it's the coaching. I don't think it's Bud. A lot of people pour crap on Bud. I don't think he actually coached really well, and I don't know how the Bucks can play such good. I really think it's the experience thing. We had like the best record. I think it was maybe if not the best record in the NBA ever, like almost. Or we were on track to
oh, we
before
were
the.
on track to do some good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but even without that, it was still an incredible record. And so that screams to me we know how to win games. We just don't know how to win really important games. So I think we need someone like a CP3, and they need to get
Yeah.
trading soon. I think because time will run
Yeah.
away.
Well, that's pretty much all the stuff I had. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I didn't actually. That was about it. I think we've covered it.
Easy. All right. Well, Tom Nixon, thank you for this return to Hoopatheticals, season 2, episode 1. It was a long-winded chat, but it was a informative chat, I'd say.
Absolutely, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
No worries, mate. Well, until next time, stay Hoopathetical.
Wow. Okay, I will.
All right, see you, dude.
See you, mate.